Have you ever taken an inventory on how fear is affecting the quality of your life? In our series, Adapting to Fear, we will be laying the groundwork to do just that. Now, fear plays a significant part in the quality of our lives. And in today's video, we will be discussing the fear of uncertainty. Now, uncertainty is intrinsic in just the human experience and being an individual. And there are many different ways that we adapt to this fear. I will give a couple examples on different ways that we might do this. So perfectionism is one way we adapt to the fear of uncertainty, and we do this with absolutism and trying to find the right way. So that is how they deal with that fear. They want to find the right way so they can try to feel certain that that's the way something's supposed to be. So when a perfectionist has the right way, they don't want there to be multiple ways. They don't want to hear other things because that right way is what's giving them a sense of certainty. People pleasing is another example of a way to deal with that fear of uncertainty. Because, people pleasing is a strategy of, dealing with relationships and stuff by capitulating to what other people want and not really taking the time to evaluate and understand what they want. They just automatically do what other people want. And this helps them get out of a place of uncertainty by choosing the one option that they know will give them a livable outcome. So it might not be a preferred outcome. It might not be a happy outcome, but they know it's livable. And so they're certain about that if they people please, they will get that livable outcome. Another example of how we adapt is nihilism. Now, nihilism is a way of opting out of responsibility. Because it starts believing that the only thing that's consistent is change, or that all the world is, going downhill. These different things. So this is the type of thing that you find in deconstruction stories. When you find someone who is trying to stay in deconstruction or starting to go down the path of all truth is relative, things like that. They're trying to find certainty in certainty. Kind of like that saying, the only thing that's consistent is change. It's like that expectation kind of can help give you a sense of certainty within that uncertainty. So those are just different ways that we have learned to adapt, and there's many more. So those are 3 examples. Now, one thing to be able to understand when it comes to this is that our minds make maps. And these maps are really easy to see in children when they're small, especially when they're learning language. So if you have a small child and say they learn the word cat, and then suddenly all animals are cats, or the word house, now all buildings are houses. Now that is that child making a mind map. They're able to see there's similarities between all animals, and it needs a label, so they give it that label cat. And that's how humans learn language, is by making these kind of archetypes. And so we don't really ever actually stop doing that. We do it all the time, and it's what allows us to process and deal with large amounts of information by grouping things together and then labeling it. So mind maps themselves are not the problem, but our maps are not always designed to reach a good destination. And so that's what we find in those strategies that I just listed. Like the perfectionist, a lot of times ends up alienating people, or, being so focused on their right way that they miss out on a lot of life. The people pleaser, never actually builds any personal sovereignty, or never actually knows who they are, so they're not able to share it with other people. The person who's fallen into nihilism never takes personal responsibilities, and it doesn't build things in their life that they should and they're perfectly capable of doing because they feel like it's outside their control. These are all not good destinations that we want to go to. But that's why it's important to realize that we have this fear of uncertainty, because that helps us find our mind maps and figure out how we are dealing with it. So here's some tips on how to start evaluating how you are dealing with this fear, and also getting maybe some application to start growing and taking control and building a better relationship with your fear of uncertainty. The first tip is to start trying to use degrees of uncertainty. Now, it's very often that we fall into these traps where when we're making decisions, especially on big things in our life, we really want to be certain about that decision. And to do that, we end up creating dichotomies or basically lying to ourselves or doing different things where we feel, okay, this is the decision I'm going to make. So if you can back out of that and use degrees of certainty and actually own the fact that you are not 100% certain on the decision you're making, that will allow you to start developing a better relationship with that uncertainty. Because we need to learn to be comfortable to make decisions even when we know we're not fully certain about them. And that leads us to our second tip, which is practicing honesty with yourself. So the more honest yourself that you're not certain, the more you're able to actually end up doing the thought work and things that you need to do to build a better relationship with yourself. So if you admit that you're not 100% certain on a belief or on a decision, then that'll start allowing this whole new world where you start asking yourself questions. Well, what if I'm wrong? What if this decision I make doesn't work out the way I want? You can start owning the consequences and knowing and deciding if you actually want to own the consequences if you're wrong about something or if things don't work out. And those are the types of things that are really important in trying to find who you are actually as an authentic individual. Because you want to know what you're willing to do, what you're willing to believe in, even if you're wrong, even if it doesn't work out. Those are the things you want to know about yourself. And our next tip is to cut off future mapping early and move on to experience while working on your own leverage. So when you start noticing and you start learning how you're labeling things and trying to box them in and trying to give yourself a sense of certainty, you can start catching them early and start doing that work and then giving it experience, so that way you're not creating a mind map that is boxing things off where you're not thinking about it or giving you that sense of certainty. Because those are the types of things that can, again, send you into dichotomies where you go onto one side or start building negative narratives and things like that can really have negative impacts on your life and take you further away from integration rather than towards it. And our last tip is to speak to the instinct in you that tries to help you with uncertainty. So since we have this fear, there are parts of you, instinctual parts of you, that are trying to manage that fear, if you realize it or not. And it's really important to find and speak to that instinct, because the more awareness you have of it, the more you can talk to it. You can embrace that fear of uncertainty. You can create better mind maps on how to deal with it. And you can just become more comfortable with your life. And it will open up your ability to actually take that honest look at yourself, to do the evaluations and stuff that you need to actually do the personal growth, transformational work you need to become a more integrated individual. So I hope that makes sense and I hope that helped. Please feel free to check out our other integrated thoughts videos. We do have videos on dichotomies and narratives and deconstruction, which were all mentioned in this video. And I hope you'll check out the rest of the series. And hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in another video.